If I offered you $100,000 in cash so you could purchase physical gold, would you buy now or later? Welcome to Silver Heist. Thank you to our returning subscribers and guests. We are a channel that likes to hold physical gold and silver. To support my creation, please subscribe. Johnathan Moore is the CEO of Starr Peak Mining, who is exploring for gold and other metals in Quebec, Canada. Starr Peak is a sponsor of this video, and I'd like to thank them for making their leader available to us for this discussion. Hello, Mr. Moore. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on your show.
So, how long have you been following the gold market in either a professional or a personal interest?
Well, I'm a Canadian by background. I grew up in Canada, so you're either you follow gold or you watch hockey or you do both, and that's the Canadian way. So gold is in my blood. I really have been a part of it since my early days in the financial industry. I was a stockbroker for a Canadian outfit for 2 decades, kind of moved up the ranks in that and got into investment banking and did a series of gold and silver and metal transactions. So that's where I began, and that was my start in the business, and I've just followed it through all through these years.
What is your opinion on the 2020 and 2021 rallies in the gold, silver, copper, and zinc metals markets? Do you believe we're positioned for a multi-year commodity supercycle?
I do. I think we're second inning in this cycle or boom. It's a frustrating game because every time you think it's logical that the price has to increase with all the factors coming in our favor with the printing press of US dollars and all the stimulus that's been passed, you just think and feel that this inflation play and it just has to make obvious sense that gold and metals have to rise in price. So when they don't, you don't really understand why. I mean, there's not a logic for this last week's big flash crash in the price of gold. And we all woke up on Monday morning of this week, and we were scratching our head thinking, what just happened here? But we are bouncing back, and I look at the fundamentals. I look at the macro level than these technical pullback, which I think was a technical pullback. I don't think it had anything to do with fundamentals. I think there's a lot of room. I'm calling it for the next 10 years. We should see a pretty nice upward move on these metals, and I think we just have to be patient.
If I offered you $100,000 in cash so you could purchase physical gold, would you buy now or later?
You just buy it. I mean, I buy it on every dip. I look at the second half of years. So history has told us that the later part of the year is always a good time for gold. This summer has been an interesting one. It's been, everybody thinks we're going to have busy summers in the markets. Sure, we're hitting new highs on all the Dow and the S&P, but metals have struggled. And I think we're now leading into a good second half to the year. And hopefully all this frustration that we've been experiencing is finally going to start making sense. We'll get back to the levels that we think we should be at.
Starr Peak's major project is located in Quebec, Canada. It's less than a 2-hour drive from Kirkland Lake, which is both a town and a $10 billion company. What can you tell us about your neighborhood?
Well, if you're looking for elephants, this is the area to be. The main area for Canadian mining. We're in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, which is home to massive discoveries throughout Canada's history. Infrastructure is in place. You have major mining companies all operating there. Townships of labs and drilling operators. So, infrastructure and personnel is very, very close by. Government of Quebec as well is very pro-mining. There's a lot of incentives done to attract investment and attract exploration and development of the mining space. So on a global scale, we really couldn't be in a better address. Operating in Quebec is definitely a huge advantage for us.
You acquired a piece of land that included a past producing mine. What is the benefits of having a past producing mine?
That's an interesting question, because if you don't do your homework correctly, owning and buying a past producing mine can be an extreme liability because you don't know how they have left that project or land or tailings ponds or whatever it might have been for the environment. We knew the area, we knew it well. This wasn't the first piece of land we purchased. We purchased one right next door, and then we acquired the past producer, which was a huge feat for a company of our size at the time. We knew it was left well. We had all the history on it, several visits. The main advantage was the data that we could gather from the historical production. This was a major producer in Canada, in Quebec, for a span of 50 years throughout the 1900s. It produced in excess of 10.1 million tons of zinc, copper, silver, and gold. Even has a town there named after them by the name of Normatal. Not only with that, we also have infrastructure in place. It's almost like we've just hit the ground running. We are right now drilling only 700 meters away from this past producing mine. The data that we gathered was really interesting because when you're drilling that close, you're more or less drilling the same structures. So we're finding that whatever we're hitting at a certain depth was also showing on the depths of where they were producing from. And this really has been a huge advantage for us because we understand what's going on in the ground.
What's the most significant discovery you found through drilling? And can you explain what you found and what has investors paying attention?
The big word for us is this VMS deposit. And this is what the past producer Normatal was. VMS stands for volcanogenic massive sulfides. And without getting too technical for you, it's basically as it sounds in the word, volcanoes have created a fluid flow, and it's made a deposit of all these minerals throughout the formation, way back to the beginning of time. They are big and rich in base metals, lead, zinc, copper, and then also precious metals, gold and silver. They're known to be very rich in style. They give the operator or the miner very long production life. All the pods and all the zones are found in clusters or formations. So when you're mining them, they're very easy to get at. Also, the cost profile is a huge advantage because you're not just mining and looking for gold or silver, whatever it might be. You're actually now getting credit for all the zinc, the copper, the silver, the gold, all of them. So it makes the economics so much better and the rock that much richer. To throw things into perspective, in Canada, historically, there's 350 known VMS deposits. Just looking at the Canadian side, all VMS deposits in Canada account for 27% of total copper production, 49% of all zinc production, and 40% of all silver production coming out of all of Canada. So they play a major, major role in the mining space in Canada, but they're very rare. And that is why when we found this VMS deposit, it got a lot of attention and attracted a lot of big money, big investors, big institutions.
So you recently raised some capital, and I believe the new shareholders paid a premium relative to today's stock price. What is your cash position and how you're deploying these new funds?
We're very well cashed up. We did a premium to market financing. We currently have roughly 7 to 7.5 million Canadian. I'll use Canadian funds because that's obviously we report in Canadian figures. I call it the Canadian peso.
Okay.
We currently three drill rigs in operation. We will not stop drilling. We just drill and drill and drill. And looking at a company when you're looking to make money or have a reason why a mining company should go up in price, the only reason why is, well, there's a couple, but the main reason why is they have to be doing something to make value come to the company. And the only way that you can do that is by drilling and proving up the size of your asset. And the VMS style deposit allows us to very quickly increase the size of our package or our resource. We're 96% success rate on all of our drill holes to date. And what that means is every time we put a drill hole into the ground, we have hit massive sulfides on 96% of our drill holes. This is one of the biggest things that we've done. This shows people that this land is very rich and we have a very good understanding of what's going on in the ground. We run a very tight ship financially, no debt, management, very, very small salaries, pay accountants, pay lawyers, sustaining fees on the exchange. 90 to 92% of our money goes directly into the ground as it should. We're going to make money in this thing by building up this asset and making the share price go up. So that's why it's important for us to make sure that the money is spent the right way in the ground.
So as you're learning more about your property, you have a neighbor, Amex, with their Perron project, and they're learning about their property. What are some of the similarities?
Well, it's what attracted us to the area to begin with. Amex they hit the ground before us, call it a year and a half. We were actually all investors in Amex and did exceptionally well, massive returns. They had a very, very large gold discovery. So when we acquired the land, I don't know if you can say if it's sometimes better be lucky than smart, but we were definitely looking for something similar to what Amex had hit. And we would have been just delighted with that. And then we went a step further and we bought that past producing mine, the Normatal mine. So we put our first drill hole in and we hit something better. We hit VMS. And Amex is drilling directly on our boundary. They're now within 700 meters of our property line. So I'm just snapped in the middle of this massive discovery on my left and a massive past producing mine on my right. And I'm hitting, the good stuff right in between. And, there's a saying out there that, big discoveries, the best place to find a big discovery is right next to another one. And that was probably a reason why we came into this area when they were having all the success. They've also on their property just drilled into a VMS system as well, adding to their gold asset. So I think what I'm trying to really paint a picture here of is that this area is going to become a very, very big camp. I mean, there's discoveries coming here. They're very rich. The grades are great. And obviously as I mentioned, the infrastructure is already in place. It's a very early stage for this camp as well. So I think the upside here is tremendous.
Are you sharing some talent?
Good question. So the chairman and founder of Amex, Dr. Jacques Trottier, when we first made our big discovery hole, which was an impressive, I think it was 12 meters of 23.82% zinc, copper, gold as well. I mean, some pretty big numbers. When we hit that first hole, he actually came on and joined as our chief technical advisor. So here we are. We have a guy that's made this massive, massive gold discovery. Stock went to 400-500 million market cap. Everyone in the world wants a piece of them. And here we are. We drill our first hole, and he likes it so much because he's such a VMS bug. This guy is so talented with VMS that, I mean, it was a godsend for him to be able to ask to be a part of our team. The more I drill and the more my results start hitting market, the pedigree of people that are joining the team are just increasing at almost the same rate. We also use the same drilling company and exploration team as Amex. So all the geologists and all the drillers all drill for basically Amex and Starr Peak. So that's an important thing to understand here because we can learn a lot from each other. Not that we're seeing any results. I mean, that's all private and confidential. But anytime that we need a hand with looking at structures or interpretations of zones, we have the benefit of seeing, well, what did they do at that stage and bring it across and see what we're doing. And really the idea of sharing information is huge here because we're trying to build this area or camp up so it's big enough for everybody.
What can you tell us about your shareholder structure and how does that benefit the retail investor?
We did it the right way. We managed to keep our structure very, very tight in terms of shares outstanding. There's a very, very minimal dilution here. We only have 39 million shares outstanding and 7.5 million in cash. And that's almost unheard of. Plus we have a discovery at the same time. So really we started off, funding it. We didn't know what to expect. We thought we had a very good shot of hitting something. And we started with a 5,000 meter drill program. And in the first 1,000 meters we hit and share price reacted. And then we took in more money at $1.50. Then we moved it up to 260, took in more money. Then we moved it up to 360, took in more money, and recently up at 380. It's interesting to note that every time I've done a financing institutionally from the $1.50 round, the same institutions have been averaging up their price in every financing. So I like to see that because you're just not somebody getting the early cheap round and then exiting. They're actually moving their price up as we go. So my market cap currently of, call it 95 to 100 million US. Really, when you see what Amex did and where they have gone and the area, then, I believe that, the more I drill, the more expensive I'm going to become. That's the kind of theory that we have. We're very early stage, but the structure is perfect.
What's the current number on your drilling program and is it all bought and paid for?
Yeah, we're fully paid for. We have bumped it recently up to 60,000 meters. So, it's funny, a year ago, I announced a 5,000 meter drill program, and now we're already up to 60. 3 drill rigs going nonstop. every minute, every night, every minute of the night, day. And, as you get to that 60,000 level, you keep going. And all we have to do is just build this size of asset, which we believe is going to be very big, has a huge potential. I mean, we just scratched the surface. The past producing Normatal mine down to 2.2 kilometers under the ground. And we're only scratching it at about 850 meters right now. So many drill targets, so many areas, we really have to just do it orderly and just keep drilling. And it's very exciting.
And there's parts of your territory that have never really seen modern techniques. This was 50, 100 years ago.
Good question. So that's the huge difference between when they were mining and operating and drilling throughout the 1900s. The technology and techniques now are mind-blowing. For instance, there is something called a BHEM probe, which when you drill a hole, you are then able to put down an instrument to go down hole and get conductivity readings in certain zones. So when you put it down, it'll light up on a computer and you're able to see big hits of conductivity, which means mineralization or potential mineralization. And this has been able to allow us to pinpoint our drilling. When you're going down 800 meters and we put a drill down, we're able to basically target it within a meter. This is a huge cost benefit because you're not wasting your money drilling holes which might have deviated or moved or just in the wrong spot. You're pinpointing your drilling. And it's, I term it, you're drilling smart. You're basically doing your homework before you're going in, and, you have these 3D models that you've created, and every time you put in a hole, it's recorded on your model, and that becomes your Bible. This is your framework of your operation. And they didn't have that back in the 80s and 1980s, 70s. So, I think most probably that structure on Normatal could have been so much bigger than just 10.1 million tons that they produced. And we believe what we're seeing is almost a carbon copy from their mine structurally. We're drilling 700 meters away, but every zone we're hitting, we're seeing on their property where they produced historically. We have all this land. This thing could be a big prize.
Well, it could be like twins. They're Danny DeVito and you're Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That would be a very good analogy. Yeah.
Well, what are your long-term plans for the project? What's your exit strategy?
When you're a junior exploration company turning into a developing company, developing and building an asset, the way I look at it personally for my investments, when I'm investing in other projects of that nature, is you hope that people stick to what they're good at. Back in the 1900s, they would go out and they'd drill these structures and they'd drill the exploration and they'd build it up and then they'd just go produce from it. But they don't do that anymore. They don't do any exploration. Their budgets are all set for development and production. They rely on companies like us to go out and do that work for them. Call it the dirty work, call it whatever you want. But as long as you're doing that dirty work and you're doing it properly, you can find your discovery, build up that resource, build up the asset to a point where it's big enough and you show the feasibility on it, you show the economics, you show the type of rock, you do your metallurgy, and you get it to a point where the major just says, we'll take that, thank you very much. That is the goal for Starr Peak. Already we've been in touch with a couple of majors, I can't say who, but we've been in discussions. And because like I said earlier, anytime you make a VMS deposit, it's a rare occurrence, especially in the last 10 years, that you get noticed. So what we can just say is that we're on radars already, and we'll just keep drilling and just doing our work and reporting and putting out the press.
So I'll leave a link to your company's website in a presentation and point out to my audience that your US ticker symbol is STRPF. Mm-hmm. So please do your own due diligence. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, just, follow us. We have regular press. When you have constant drills going out, you always have press releases. So that's exciting. Also, our telephone number is on the bottom of every press release or on the website. Call us, everybody. We all pick up the phone and we talk to people. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Well, Mr. Moore, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.